today we're going to talk about a huge yet kind of invisible problem in farming, soil erosion. But more importantly, we're going to look at a super simple solution that's making a real difference, a way of farming that protects our most precious resource, the soil itself. I know, it sounds a little over the top, right? But believe it or not, a single raindrop can be incredibly powerful. It might seem harmless, but the whole story of how a field loses its soil, well, it all kicks off with the tiny, explosive impact of one drop of rain. Okay, so before we can really get into the solution, we've got to understand the problem. And soil erosion is basically a two-stage attack on the land. It's not just water washing dirt away, it's a little more systematic than that. So here's how it works. First, you've got what's called detachment. That's the raindrop we were just talking about. It smacks into bare soil like a little bomb, and it blasts soil particles loose. Then comes step 2, transport. As soon as those particles are broken free, any water flowing over the surface can just scoop them up and carry them right off the field. It's a real 1-2 punch. And believe me, this is not a small issue. To give you some perspective, data from the University of Missouri shows that their average cropland loses about 10 tons of soil per acre every single year. That's like taking 5 cars and just removing their equivalent weight from every acre of farmland. It's a huge problem happening in slow motion. So, how in the world do you fight back against millions of tiny raindrop bombs? Well, the first line of defense in a no-till system is actually pretty brilliant, and it's all about creating a shield. See, instead of plowing all the leftover bits from the last harvest, the stalks and leaves back into the ground, no-till farming just leaves it all sitting on the surface. And this crop residue acts like a natural coat of armor for the soil. And this shield is pretty clever. It works in a few ways. First, as you see here, it just absorbs the energy from the raindrops, so they can't blast the soil apart. It also physically gets in the way of any water trying to run off the surface, creating all these tiny little dams that give the water more time to soak into the ground instead of washing away. This chart really tells the story perfectly. What you're seeing is the connection between how much of the ground is covered by that residue and how much soil is lost. As you move from left to right and add more cover, just look at how sharply that soil loss line drops. It's dramatic. And here is the really amazing part. You don't even need to cover the whole field. The data shows that just leaving 30% of the soil covered with residue can cut soil erosion by 50%. I mean, that's an incredible result for simply not plowing. But protecting the top layer is only part of it. The real magic of no-till farming actually happens over time, deep down, as the soil itself starts to change for the better. So on the one hand, you have traditional tilling. It churns everything up, breaking apart the natural pores and pathways that let water sink in. Sometimes it even creates this hard crust on top that literally seals water out. But no-till, well, it does the exact opposite. By not disturbing the soil, it lets this amazing complex structure of roots and pores and organic matter build up. This is what helps increase things like soil organic carbon, which is key for healthy soil, and basically turns the ground into a giant sponge. And this quote from Bayer's Foreground platform really nails it. Over time, the soil can physically hold on to more water. That makes it tougher against both droughts and heavy rains, because it can just soak up moisture and save it for later. And if you want the hard numbers to back that up, look at this table from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Check out that soil permeability column. A typical tilled system can only absorb about 0.4 inches of rain an hour. But then look at slot plant, which is a no-till method. It can absorb 4 inches an hour. That is 10 times more. It can handle so much more rain before water even starts to run off. Okay, so the theory is solid, right? You've got the shield on top and the sponge underneath. But does it really work like that in a side-by-side comparison out in the real world? Let's take a look at a study that put it to the test. So, researchers in Italy set up this really cool experiment. They took 2 fields right next to each other, one farmed with conventional tilling, the other with no-till. And then, for 2 years, they measured every single drop of water and every speck of soil that left those fields. So what'd they find? Well, first off, the no-tilled field had more than 50% less water runoff than the tilled field. The soil sponge was obviously doing its job and soaking up way more rainwater. But this is the result that is just absolutely stunning. The amount of sediment, the actual soil, that washed away was reduced by up to 95% on the no-till field. That's not just an improvement, that's a total game changer. I mean, this bar chart says it all. The difference is just wild. The conventional field lost over 3,300 kilograms of soil per hectare. The no-till field, just over 400. It is not even in the same ballpark. And here's a really interesting point the researchers made. While no-till was good at stopping water from running off, it was exceptionally good at stopping soil from leaving. That combination of the residue shield and the healthy soil structure meant that even when some water did run off, it just couldn't take the precious topsoil with it. So when you pull it all together, what you have is this really elegant, nature-based solution to a problem that, let's be honest, we created with machines in the first place. And it all comes back to this one simple benchmark. Conservation tillage, which is the broader category that includes no-till, is basically any system that hits that 30% residue cover mark. That seems to be the magic number, where all these amazing benefits really start to kick in. So let's just recap how this all works. First, you have the residue shield that armors the surface. Second, the soil sponge builds up that incredible structure underneath. The result? A massive drop in both runoff and, most importantly, soil loss. And, hey, as an amazing bonus, research shows this practice also saves about 2.5 to 5 inches of water from just evaporating every year. You know, it really makes you wonder. For so long, we thought the plow was the answer to everything. But it turns out that one of the most powerful things we can do to protect our farmland might be to just step back a little and let nature's own systems do their thing.